Good morning, everybody. We were just saying just a second ago that it's a beautiful morning out this morning, which it is. What makes it beautiful? The sun. The sun makes it beautiful, especially in the golden hour, the first hour or so of the morning, the last hour or so of the evening, and that sun has that way of hitting it. Yeah, the sun is part of what makes the morning beautiful. What else makes it? What else makes the morning beautiful? We're diving right in. We're not starting with any easy questions or a warm-up round. It sounds like an easy question, but it's not. But how do you know a morning is beautiful? You must, because you say it all the time. What a beautiful morning. Because why? Oh, we're above the grass. We're here to enjoy it. We're on the right side of the surface. Well, wow, I guess that might be it. We're here to enjoy it. We're above the grass. What else? No rain. No rain. I know someone who would disagree. There's always somebody. You know them. I know someone who would say that her favorite mornings are the rainy mornings. And it's not just inside drinking coffee. She'll get out there. She'll get out there in the beautiful mornings. I had a neighbor once where he walked his dog and I walked my dog, and we would see each other, and no matter what the weather was, it could just be terrible. And I would always say, we got to have a routine, I would say, some weather we're having. And he would always say the same thing, my favorite kind of weather. I think probably for the reason you say, right? His favorite kind of weather. What makes anything beautiful? What makes anything beautiful? How we perceive it. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Are these things out there being beautiful in the world? If a tree is beautiful in the forest, and there's no one there to appreciate it, is the tree beautiful? John asks. Yeah, me. Oh, I forgot it was on. After 2 years of nearly of this, thank you so much for reminding me. I agreed that I would take my mask off when we're doing this. I simply forgot. Let's start over. Okay, well, let's start over. If a tree is beautiful in the forest and John's not there to appreciate it, is it still beautiful, right? So maybe things aren't beautiful. I don't know. I'm going to keep saying that they're beautiful. What makes something beautiful to you? What makes something, if beauty is in the eye of the beholder, well, what makes it beautiful to you? Alive and healthy. It sounds like we're not just talking about some things. Wait, you're alive and healthy, or it is alive? You are alive and healthy, and that makes things beautiful to you. Say just a little, I hear you, and I think let's say a little more about that if you don't mind. Yeah, if I'm feeling it, right? If I'm feeling it, then it's beautiful. If I'm feeling it. Someone else might not be feeling it, and it's not beautiful. I'm feeling it, like my neighbor, Ron Sims, his favorite kind of weather. It's because he appreciates it, because how he feels, he can appreciate it. It's hard to say what makes something beautiful. It's hard to say what makes something beautiful to us. Yeah. But at the same time, it's not hard. We do it all the time. Maybe the problem is thinking about it. We're better when we don't think about it, says the academic, says the teacher. Oh no, think about it anyway. What makes someone beautiful? What makes someone beautiful? Character. Character makes them beautiful. Beauty on the inside. We can see it on the outside, or hear it, or feel it. Character. And character moves, doesn't it? Character is actions in the world, right? People are, maybe they're beautiful when they move, when they're doing stuff. Like Robert Redford in as the Sundance Kid. Remember, can I move? I'm better when I move. He's trying to shoot something and he can't hit it unless he moves. Maybe people are beautiful when they move, when they act, when they do. It shows their character. Yeah, or some people, maybe not everybody. Depends on the character, I suppose. Or maybe it's what I think of the character. Whose hand was up? Someone was, wait, yeah.
I don't want to get in trouble for saying this, but sometimes it's culture that makes something beautiful.
Yeah.
For example, we want Jesus to be beautiful because most of us are either Western or Northern. We want him to have blonde hair and blue eyes.
Yeah.
There are people who find some portrayals of Jesus as a first-century Palestinian to be offensive. Sometimes it's culture or what we're used to. Another one is, of course, the way Mary is portrayed. She's a blonde, blue-eyed, absolutely gorgeous Northern European girl.
Yeah.
She wasn't a first century Eastern Mediterranean.
Yeah, yeah. Beauty standards are in part culturally determined, right? They're culturally contingent. And the example you give, John, Jesus and Mary, right? The way that Jesus and Mary are when we're making them beautiful, right? They often have become blonde and blue-eyed to become beautiful, rather than maybe the more historically true and beautiful in their context, right? Brown-skinned Mediterranean Jews, except Judas. You've seen them, the Last Supper paintings, where there's 12 pale-skinned, rosy-cheeked, blue-eyed Vikings sitting on the table, and one hook-nosed, dark-skinned Mediterranean Jew. Who is it? It's Judas, right? Those beauty standards are going both ways in terms of what is conceived of as beautiful and what is conceived of as not beautiful or sinister or exotic or foreign, right? And so on. Beauty is culturally contingent, right? Culturally conditioned. And it changes. Even as culture changes, right? It's not static. Right? As culture changes, beauty changes. Consider the television commercials, I think I can say that for the most part, of our youth, right? And the way that they portrayed beauty and vibrancy and health compared to many television commercials today and the way they portray vibrancy and beauty and health. It's not all the same. It's not all the same. Beauty changes over time. The Song of Songs, which is for Solomon, if only he would give me some of the kisses of his mouth. Oh, your loving is sweeter than wine, your fragrance is sweet, your very name is perfume. That's why the young women love you. Take me along with you, let's run. The king has brought me into his chambers, saying, let's exult and rejoice in you. Let's savor your loving more than wine. No wonder they all love you. Dark am I, black am I, and lovely, daughters of Jerusalem, like the black tents of the Kedar nomads, like the curtains of Solomon's palace. Don't stare at me because I'm darkened by the sun's gaze. My own brothers were angry with me. They made me a caretaker of the vineyards, but I couldn't care for my own vineyard. Well, now something's bugging me. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Dark am I, black am I, and lovely. Like the black tents, like the curtains of Solomon's palace. Don't stare at me because I'm darkened by the sun's gaze. My own brothers were angry with me. They made me a caretaker of the vineyards, but I couldn't care for my own vineyard. It's not a story, really. We don't get a story in the Song of Songs. Or at least readers keep finding over and over again that if we try to get a story out of it, the work frustrates us at every turn. It's poetry. It's lyric poetry. There's a big conversation, is it dramatic poetry or lyric poetry? Is it poetry like Romeo and Juliet, which is poetry? And it has a story with a beginning, 2 houses, a middle, an apothecary, and an end, the grave, right? Or so is it a dramatic poem or is it lyric poetry? Just spouting things and spouting other things. In a theme, right? In a theme, spouting more things. Seems to be more like this, but then we get things like this. Well, if you don't want me to make a story out of you, don't give me all the details of these details of a story. Okay, so if you're going to give me story details, I'll give it a try. Well, what seems to be happening? What's happening? Don't be afraid of being wrong. People have been trying to figure out what's happening here for a couple thousand years or more. Believe me. We're not going to crack the puzzle today. But let's be part of the conversation. Let's be part of the conversation. What's happening? What's happening and who's involved? You don't think that her brothers approve of who she's in love with? Why is that?
It's a vague line. My own brothers are angry with me. I have no reference to that. I don't understand why. But the only other context in the story is her love.
So it gives us this detail. My brothers are angry with me. It doesn't tell us why explicitly. So we go groping for details, casting about for details, which of course we do. Right? And it's a love song. It's a love poem. So maybe it's about who she's in love with. Could be. She's going to go on to have some things to say about what she has to say about the one she's in love with. Tell me, you whom I love with all my heart. Where do you pasture your flock? Where do you rest them at noon, so I don't wander around with the flocks of your companions? She's going looking for them, right? Seeking and finding. She's going looking for them. She's made a choice out of her character to act in a certain way. Right? She's going to go looking for them. What else? The brothers aren't going to come up again, ever. This is it for the brothers. They've made a brief appearance in her speech, and then they're gone. So if we want to know anything about the brothers, this is it. They were angry with her. What else about them, as long as we're around the brothers? What else do we hear about the brothers? Yeah. Yeah, they made me a caretaker of the vineyards. Yeah, they made her a caretaker of the vineyards, but her own vineyard she has not kept, is another translation. My own vineyard I have not kept, or I couldn't care for my own vineyard. Why are we hearing about the brothers in this text? Why do they come up? What's the context that they come up in? My brothers are angry with me. How does this come up?
I don't know, but I think it's lovely in the sense that she's very proactive throughout the rest, and here she's being just the detail that shows that she's still being controlled.
That she's still being controlled, right? Which we expect in this world, right? This patriarchal world where arranged marriage is the norm, arranged by one's family, and yet through the song, we're going to keep seeing, aren't we, that centering of the male world and male agency and male control decentered, right? She doesn't live in the house of her father. It's the house of her. She will bring her lover to the house of her mother, not into her parents' bedroom, but into the chamber of she who conceived me, right? There's going to be other ways in which we keep finding but they're brought in, aren't they? The males, the brothers are brought in perhaps in order to be set aside, right? Yes, your hand was up. Is she saying that you, the lover, will be better family to me than the brothers have been, Certainly she'll go on to say, right, 3 times in different ways, I am his and he is mine. I am my lover's and he is mine. I am his and his desire is for me. Right? The repeated claim that she has confidence in his attentions, in his fidelity, right? There's no, like we talked about, there's no lovers' triangles in the Song of Songs. She's not constantly having to win him away from some other woman or some other women. There's that confidence. So in that respect, she certainly has great confidence in him. She has confidence and experience about his loving, his caresses, right? Which she talks about again and again, about how his caresses, his loving, is sweeter than wine. She has a lot to say about his attentions and her confidence in those attentions. Her brothers were angry, put her out to care for the vineyards. Men's work, boys' work. Boys' work, rustic work, hard work. Hard work. Hard work in the sun. Hard work in the sun. Don't stare at me because I am darkened by the sun's gaze. Oh. Why does that happen? Don't stare at me because I am darkened by the sun's gaze. Got very small on you, and I'm just going to do something about that real quick. There we go. Agricultural work. I am not an agricultural worker, but my father was. My father grew up in a coal camp, and on the summers he would come up to the Rockford area. He was in the coal camp in West Virginia, and when he went to Berea College, they'd come and hire them away for the summers to the Rockford, Illinois area, and he would do agricultural work all summer. He's described it to me. Boy, am I glad he became a chemist in Park Ridge. Really glad. It's hard. It's hard work. It's brutal work. It's under the sun, right? The sun that darkens your skin, right? The sun that darkens your skin. My hand was up.
Yes.
John.
Headings. Were those in the original, or were those
Yeah.
added
By these translators and editors. Yeah, the headings. Are the headings really there, or are they made up? So when you get things like mutual admiration, or even woman, man, the text is not telling us explicitly in that way when the man is speaking or when the woman is speaking. I was talking to one of you a few weeks ago. I'm going to say more probably next week about LGBTQ readings of the Song of Songs and gender and gendering in the Song of Songs. We'll say a little bit today. We can, certainly. No reason not to. One of the things about Hebrew is it's a gendered language to a point, but not in all ways. So when I'm speaking and I'm using words like you and your, right, I'm gendering those words. So if I'm talking to one man, you can tell I'm talking to one man. If I'm talking to one woman, you can tell I'm talking to one woman. If I'm talking to a group of men or a mixed group, you can tell. If I'm talking to a group of women, you can usually tell. But you can't tell who I am. Whether it's I or we, that's not gendered. So when oh, let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. Well, we know that it's him and his mouth. The text isn't telling us who I am. I could be anybody. I could be anybody saying, let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. We have to get into context and cultural presuppositions. Certainly the text, Song of Songs in its origins, assumes, right? By showing us that these are two lovers, and he is addressing her with female pronouns, she is addressing him with male pronouns, and so on. It creates this picture of these two lovers, but a male and female lover. But any one utterance is a little bit up for grabs, especially because there's another character in here. There's the women of Jerusalem. There's only 3 characters in this whole thing. I don't count the brothers because they just get talked about, right? Some people get talked about, like the brothers and Solomon, but they never step on stage and start talking. Right? It's the man, it's the woman, and it's the women of Jerusalem. The women of Jerusalem. Sometimes, so for example, sometimes when somebody is saying something, say to the man, if someone is speaking to the woman, right, and saying something to her, we mostly assume it's the man, but what if sometimes it's the women of Jerusalem saying it? It makes a difference, right? Who's talking? But we don't know. But we don't really know. So yeah, those headers are not part of the song. Dark am I and lovely, daughters of Jerusalem. Daughters of Jerusalem. So she's not talking to the man at the moment. She's not trying to persuade him of anything. But to the daughters of Jerusalem, daughters of Jerusalem just doesn't mean that they're all daughters. That is, they are daughters of the city of Jerusalem in the sense that, like, you would call all the men of the city the sons of Jerusalem, the sons of Israel, and so on. The women, all the women of the city, married, unmarried, old, young, they're all the daughters of Jerusalem. That's why I often say the women of Jerusalem. Dark am I and lovely women of Jerusalem, like the black tents of the Kedar nomads, like the curtains of Solomon's palace. That's how she's dark. That's how she's black. What is that like? The black tents of the Kedar nomads, probably goats. Goat skin tents. Elsewhere, and we'll look at this next week, next week I look forward to getting into those real descriptive passages. You know the ones you always think of when you think of the Song of Songs. I made you wait till week 5 to be able to play with them. It's just my way. Always leave them wanting more. So, your hair is like a flock of goats running down from Mount Gilead. Your neck is like a Tower of David. Your arms are, and so on and so on. Your eyes, your breasts are like 2 fawns. So her hair, her lover will describe her hair as black before long. Her hair is black like goats, right? Isn't simile wonderful? Simile and metaphor, right? There's a thing that simile and metaphor do. You know this already without thinking about it. They highlight the parts of the thing that's being compared. They highlight somehow the things that they want to while suppressing the things that they don't want to. So your hair is like a flock of goats flowing down from Mount Gilead. It sounds so beautiful. Maybe until you get too close. I've been around goats. fleas. Is that what her hair is like? Like smelly goats and fleas? No. We're not supposed to get too close. Right? They're running down from Mount Gilead. But here, the black tents of the Kedar nomads, black goat skin, right? Black goats. These black tents of like Bedouin shepherds, Bedouin nomads out there in the wilderness, roughing it up, right? Roughing it. Like she's going to be, like she's roughed it. Roughing it like she's roughed it. Under the sun, tending her brother's vineyards, while her own vineyard languished, right? Like the curtains of Solomon's palace. Oh. Well, what are the curtains of Solomon's palace like, probably? Smelly goats? What's that? You've seen TV? Did you used to watch Dallas? Right? We see shows with rich people in them. We know how rich people live. Imagine the curtains of Trump's palace, the curtains of J.R. Ewing's palace. It's good stuff. It's good stuff, right? So black in both these ways, right? Black like the rustic goatskin tents of the Bedouin shepherds, black like the finely woven tapestries, right? The finely woven curtains of the richest palace anyone has ever heard of. Black. That's how I'm black. That's how I'm black and beautiful, she says. That's how. Inviting that look, inviting you to look, inviting you to look. I am black and beautiful. Look at how I'm beautiful. I'm beautiful like this. Look at how I'm beautiful. I'm beautiful like that. Don't stare at me. In that I am darkened by the sun's gaze. Okay, so there's the daughters of Jerusalem, yeah? Look. Look at her. Look at her skin. What's their skin probably like? What's the skin of the daughters of what does the skin of the daughters of Jerusalem look like? Olive colored, right? Not Scandinavian white by any means, right? But paler, right? Perhaps unscarred, right? The sun scars. Have you ever seen what the sun can do to a person? I mean, really do to a person, you know? Maybe unscarred, maybe whole, but smooth, lighter, a life indoors, right? A life spent indoors. City slickers, right? Have you ever, I mean, you know how much beauty standards have often relied on this distinction. I'm thinking before the tanning craze of the 1970s, really. But, you know, certainly in Western culture, in the United States, people did not suntan before the 1970s. You look like an agricultural worker, right? You want to look refined and pale and refined. Powder yourself, make yourself more pale, even more pale, right? And the 70s came along, and we all wanted to look more rustic and healthy. You know, maybe we had this idea, we made us look healthy. That's why we all have to go to the dermatologist once a year now, right? Remember we were out there putting Crisco oil all over our bodies or whatever? Like, there was no sunscreen in those days, remember? There was suntan lotion. It's basically like a liquid magnifying glass, right? We were all darkening our skin. Not these ladies. Not these ladies. They wouldn't be caught dead in the sun. Not if they can help it. Not if they can help it. But look at her. Look at her. And she says, don't stare at me because I'm darkened. Look at me. I'm beautiful. Look at me. I'm black and beautiful in these ways. Don't stare at me that I'm darkened by the sun's gaze. My brothers put me out to work outdoors. My brothers put me out to work in their vineyards. They were angry with me. My own vineyard I have not kept. My own vineyard I have not kept. Song of Songs, chapter 4, he says to her, an enclosed garden is my sister, my bride. An enclosed pool, a sealed spring. Your limbs are an orchard of pomegranates with cane and cinnamon, wood, myrrh, and aloes. You are a garden spring, a well of fresh water. And she says, let my love come to his garden. Let him eat its luscious fruit. Let my love come to his garden. In chapter 8, the man will say, Solomon had a garden. It was full of like the most luxurious and expensive fruit in all the world. But then he says, my vineyard, my very own, stands before me, is before me. My vineyard is before me. You can have your 1,000 silver pieces for your fruit, Solomon. My vineyard is before me. Throughout the song, the vineyard and the garden are sometimes going to be the place where the lovers meet. And sometimes it's going to be her beautiful body, where they meet. Sometimes it's hard to tell which is which. My own vineyard I could not keep out there in the sun. What could I do? What could I do? What makes her beautiful? For her, for this, what is it, for this text, for her? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And who is beholding her in this text? She is. Self-regard, self-love, right? What makes her beautiful? She tells us. Black am I and beautiful, like these tents, like these curtains, the way that the sun has made me for reasons. That's how I'm beautiful. In the Frederick Douglass was a big fan of the Song of Songs, and he wrote about it. W.E.B. Du Bois, big fan of the Song of Songs, put this text, I am black and I am beautiful, et cetera, as the epigraph to a short story that he wrote at one time. Langston Hughes makes use of the Song of Songs. In African American interpretation of the Song of Songs, and of the Bible, one of the lines of interpretation has been, anyone remember the Queen of Sheba? Solomon and the Queen of Sheba? Who is the Queen of Sheba to Solomon? What's that story about? Anyone remember? Or do you just mostly remember the name? In 1 Kings, that's describing how wonderful Solomon's wisdom is. It said that people came from all over the world to hear his wisdom. Even the Queen of Sheba came and sat with him to hear his wisdom. People came from the ends of the known earth to hear Solomon's amazing wisdom. The Queen of Sheba is considered, for good reason, to be African, perhaps Cushite. And in some lines of interpretation of the Bible, the Song of Songs, the Song of Solomon, is the song that is sung between Solomon and his lover, the Queen of Sheba. His lover, the Queen of Sheba. And so in Langston Hughes, W.E.B. Du Bois, Frederick Douglass, we see this presupposition. I am black and beautiful. Do y'all know what the translation used? You ever hear the old translation? It's in the NRSV. This is what you'll get in the NRSV, the King James Version, and so on. I am black but beautiful, daughters of Jerusalem. I am black but beautiful. Okay, I'm black, but I'm beautiful. You hear the difference? You hear the difference? Right? I'm beautiful despite my blackness. Despite my blackness. As opposed to I am black and beautiful. In part because of my blackness. Right? In my blackness, I am beautiful. That translation started to change around the 70s. But African American interpreters as early as the post-Civil War period were already on that case. Correctly reading the Hebrew. Right? Correctly reading, I am black and I am beautiful. Toni Morrison. Anyone ever read Beloved? Couple of nods. I'm not nodding. That's part of my homework. I'm thinking over Christmas break. I'm going to finally read Beloved. That name Beloved refers in Toni Morrison's story to an infant daughter who is deceased, but whose spirit, almost literally, sort of occupies the pages throughout. And in the narrative, in the story, Beloved comes from the funeral service. Dearly beloved, right? Speaking of the survivors, but dearly beloved becomes for the mother and for the narrative the epithet of the daughter. But for Toni Morrison, it becomes clear that beloved, for her in her crafting of the story, comes from the Song of Songs. There's going to be references to the Song of Songs in different ways through the story. And this didn't surprise readers who had read Toni Morrison's earlier book, her first book, her breakthrough book. Anybody want to guess the title? The Song of Solomon. The Song of Solomon. The Song of Solomon was Toni Morrison's book about a family in the post-civil, in the period between about 1930s, from the 1930s up into the civil rights period. There you get, for example, it's lovely the way she does it. She doesn't make anything easy, just like the Song of Songs doesn't make anything easy. Those who are here, you'll remember that Teresa of Avila, her favorite thing about the Song of Songs was that she couldn't understand it. Right? I don't understand, and I love that I don't understand, because when I don't understand, I'm being drawn into a relationship. I'm being drawn into a relationship. A puzzle is something that I can be drawn into to solve it. That's a jigsaw puzzle. I love a jigsaw puzzle, right? I'm drawn into it in order to unlock the key and solve the puzzle. But a person or a poem or a story that resists my understanding, what's with the brothers? Why are they angry? Oh, the text won't just tell me. It resists my understanding. I'm drawn into a relationship. Drawn into a relationship, as with a person. So, for instance, there's a character named Hagar. But it's not the biblical Hagar. But it's Hagar. There's a character named Pilate. Like Pontius Pilate. Her name is Pilate. Right? Pilate goes out. Pilate's granddaughter is in love with her cousin. In love with her cousin. Oh, my sister, my spouse. Oh, my brother, my spouse. Right? People have been made uncomfortable by the language of Song of Songs, that the lovers refer to each other as brother, as sister, right? For cultural reasons. Speaking of intimacy. In Toni Morrison's Song of Solomon, Pilate's granddaughter goes out looking for her cousin, and like the Song of Songs, remember chapter 5, those of you that are the seeking and finding. I was on my bed, I was asleep, but my heart was awake. Where is the one whom my soul loves? I will wander the city looking for him, but the men who guard the city found me instead, right? She's out there looking for her lover in the streets. In Toni Morrison's Song of Solomon, Pilate's granddaughter is out looking for her, the one whom her soul loves. and she's carrying a butcher knife. Carrying a butcher knife, wandering the streets, looking for her vanished lover. That wakefulness of the heart that plagues the lover, the woman in the Song of Songs, so intensified, so dark, right? So frightening. In the Song of Songs, we wonder, is she going to be okay? Is she going to be okay out there wandering the streets? In Toni Morrison's Song of Songs, we wonder, is he going to be okay? Is he going to be okay? And is she going to be okay? Just before, while we have time, people aren't done with this yet. They're not done with the Song of Songs yet. In 2014, you'll remember that Michael Brown was shot to death by police in Ferguson, Missouri, thank you. And that same year, Eric Garner was killed by police in New York City. The loose cigarettes, remember I Can't Breathe, right? Eric Garner. And that began a movement, did it not? Right? That began a movement that was centered around the problem of summary police violence, right? Summary police violence, extrajudicial killings of black bodies by police. In September of 2015, Only Love Alston, executive director of the Faith in New York organization, delivered a prayer in memory of women who had died in police custody. And she quoted Song of Songs 1:5-6, that's our text today, and declared, "When we think about the black woman's body, we see even within our scripture translations, translations that there has been an attempt to diminish its beauty, because most English translations of the Song of Songs will read, 'I am black but beautiful,' while in the Hebrew the verse easily reads, 'I am black and beautiful.'" 6 months later, She Loves magazine posted a piece titled, "I am black and beautiful." And this is the letter. Hashtag Black Lives Matter started as a love letter. After another black boy laid in the street, a victim of fear, racism, and bullets, and a jury of American peers said, "No, that black boy's life is not beautiful, does not matter." Alicia, that's Alicia Garza, one of the founders of the online part of the Black Lives Matter movement. This letter goes on to say, Alicia wrote a love letter on Facebook, a love letter to remind black people, and she quotes the letter. "You matter. You are loved. You are black and beautiful. You are not black but still somehow, some way beautiful. You are black and you are beautiful. Beautiful lips and beautiful brains, beautiful thighs and beautiful hearts. Beautiful." Black Lives Matter means black and beautiful, and yes, it must still be said, because even now in 2016, we are reminded that some would still choose but instead of and. Like my sisters, she concludes, like my sisters and I who are part of this leaderful movement, we have felt the scorn of those who could not see our beauty. Like our sister in Songs, who was put to work because she was a strong black woman, capable of all the physical, emotional, and spiritual work of the world. We are often admired for what we do or for what we produce, but rarely seen for the totality of who we are. The end of the quote. To be is to be perceived, yeah? I don't even remember who said that. What makes me beautiful? What makes me beautiful? To be seen. To be seen. To be seen by others and also to be seen by myself. You know, it's only going to be the woman, the young woman in the Song of Songs, who sees herself, who describes herself. Here in this text, I am black and I am beautiful, like these tents and like these curtains. In chapter 2, she's the one, you'll know this. She says, I am a lily of the valley, a rose of the plains, right? And or a crocus of the plains, perhaps. And then he will respond, this is you are a rose between two thorns, or between two thorn bushes, right? But first she describes herself. She sees herself. In chapter 8, she's going to say, in response to some other things that are happening, I am a wall and my breasts are towers. Right? So in these three places, our young woman is going to see herself and claim herself beautiful. The man never does. She will describe him as beautiful. And how? Okay, we'll get to it next week, I promise. She will describe him as beautiful and how, and he will describe her as beautiful and how. But she describes herself. She claims herself. She claims her beauty, and she's the only one. She's the only one. Claim your beauty this week. Claim your beauty this week. See the beauty. See, it's easy to say, isn't it? See, I don't know how trite that sounds. See the beauty in others. I guess I'll say it this way. See the beauty in others. Good luck. Good luck and be mindful. Good luck and be mindful. Thank you, everybody. Next week, I promise. Next week, I promise, we're going to find out about how their navels are like cups of wine, and their bodies are like ivory, their torsos are like ivory with sapphires, and so on and so on. Next week. I look forward to it. Thank you.